Love him or hate him, just don't ignore him. That challenge has been issued by Marc Emery for roughly 3 decades now, and he's got all of North America paying attention these days. The one-time Londoner and self-proclaimed Prince of Pot is on the radar screen of the Drug Enforcement Administration in the United States. Their goal? To put him in jail for 10 years to life for selling marijuana seeds to Americans. I'm Jennifer Hall on Inquiry Today, a look at the man and his mission. It's a name that invokes everything from groans to admiration among Londoners. Marc Emery first courted our attention in the 80s and 90s with his fight to promote Sunday shopping when the subject was still taboo, and his attempt to stop the Pan Am Games from coming to the city. His Sunday openings of the downtown bookstore City Lights helped introduce Emery to the prison system. Now, at age 48, the self-proclaimed Prince of Pot calls Vancouver home, a city often referred to as the marijuana capital of North America. There, he continues his decades-long campaign to legalize marijuana. And he's now captured the ultimate media spotlight with a segment on the acclaimed CBS program 60 Minutes. As we hear in this report from our sister station in Vancouver, Marc Emery is using the American TV appearance as a vehicle to further his battle in the courts.
When your story gets big enough, the ticking clock eventually comes looking for you.
Do we want marijuana legal?
So it was with Vancouver's own Marc Emery. 60 Minutes did a segment on the man U.S. authorities say is the kingpin of marijuana.
Today, to our knowledge, Marc Emery is the biggest purveyor of marijuana from Canada into the United States.
Vancouver police raided Emery's store last July, acting on behalf of the U.S. Drug Enforcement Agency. He is wanted in the U.S. for selling marijuana seeds by mail. Emery was very candid with correspondent Bob Simon, admitting to the allegations against him.
I would think that of the, I would say, 120,000 people I've dealt with, I'd say certainly 70,000 would have been Americans.
60 Minutes generally has an audience of 14 million Americans per episode.
Well, it really helps me get an audience of Americans who can come to our website, cannabisculture.com, read what we have to say, read about our point of view, read why Americans should be involved, and hopefully they will donate money to our legal fees or buy a no extradition t-shirt.
Emery hopes the segment on 60 Minutes will help him raise more money for his legal battle. So far, the defense of Emery and his co-accused has cost $40,000, and he anticipates it will be another $100,000 before all is said and done. Emery admitted to making more than $15 million over the last decade selling seeds, though he said all that money went to fight for the legalization of marijuana. A judge will set a date for his extradition hearing on Wednesday.
Well, Marc Emery has always basked in the glare of the media spotlight. Before 60 Minutes fame, he has been the subject of countless media interviews, a documentary, and just this year, a stage production co-written and produced by the late London filmmaker Chris Doty. 8 Channel's Janice Zolf was there when The Citizen Marc was being launched this winter.
Now we smoke a lot of pot, and we grow more pot, and we overgrow the government the good old organic way by growing so much pot they can't possibly stop us.
Marc Emery's Shout from the Rooftops battle for civil liberties started 30 years ago in London City Lights bookstore, where playwright Jason Ripp used to shop.
He stands by his convictions. He believes what he believes sincerely and wholeheartedly, and I think we can learn a lot from that.
Citizen Marc was inspired by Emery's relentless battles from legalizing marijuana to Sunday shopping. At today's news conference, strategically staged in Emery's former bookstore, actors Ray Bowen and Jeff Werkmeister, who plays Marc Emery, delivered the first mini preview.
What we really should be talking about is how we keep electing politicians who get bogged down in grandiose plans, like the Karen Baldwin Convention Center.
They still sell Marc Emery's magazine in the bookstore that he started over 30 years ago. But this play is not so much about the Prince of Pot and his current legal troubles. It's about Marc Emery, the political activist who used the City Lights bookstore as his base of operation.
Marc's legal trouble is going to get more people in the door.
And Shakespeare couldn't have found a better anti-hero.
He's sort of borderline between being a great, noble, heroic Canadian and insane. So it's kind of somewhere in the middle lies the truth.
In a moment, a feature interview Janice did with Marc Emery in which he says he's no longer the angry man Londoners used to know. But first, a look back to those roots of early activism when Marc Emery, fed up with the system and with London, decided to move to India. As you'll see, after 12 years as an activist, Emery was heading for what he considered more friendly territory.
I don't want to pay taxes to subsidize a system I hate so much and that is hostile to my way of living. I mean, when you think about it, I like smoking marijuana, I like pornography, I like to run a business, I like to have my kids taught at home. All of these things I've been prosecuted and convicted of, basically, in this country. And so I see my own tax money being used to persecute me for my lifestyle, and I'm not willing to put up with that. I think if I go to another country like India or Thailand, I think I'll get more respect there for who I am than I do from my own country people. Smoking marijuana, for some reason or other that I've never really been able to figure out, is illegal everywhere in the world, except India, I may add. It's legal in a number of places in India. And, but the thing is that the penalties there are for major traffickers. But remember, no one's been executed in Thailand for 2 or 3 years. They have the death penalty, but they don't use it, And also, I have a lot of friends in Thailand and people who've lived in India, and they tell me that, marijuana and things like that are readily available, and that really bribery is how you get out of things like that. And people say, well, you don't want to live in a society where you have to bribe officials. And I say, yes, I do, because, the other problem is, in North America, you can't bribe officials. You just get raped through the legal system at a far greater expense, far more time, far more inconvenience. You end up having to make lawyers rich, courts rich, judges rich, and you never get justice anyway, and it costs you a fortune. So I'd rather give $5 or $10 to some government official to let me go, and away we are. I mean, I can relate to that. I can understand that. He's a bureaucrat, he needs money, he's willing to make a deal, let me go, fine, there you go. That's what it takes. Here, the bribes are in the thousands of dollars. They're spread over years, and they go to the respected, overpaid public officials who are making far more than I make in a year. And I find that even our legal system is totally corrupt, is totally worthless, and can't be used to achieve any kind of social justice. So just one of many reasons why it's necessary to get out of Canada. The funny thing is, if there were even 3 or 4 more people like me in London, I would stay. There would be some reason, there would be some hope. But the fact is that I meet hundreds of people in a month who say they're glad to see I'm doing this, and they support me all the way, but they don't do anything themselves. I don't know what they mean by support. It means they come in and pay lip service to what you're doing, but nobody actually does anything themselves. I mean, I haven't seen any general strikes. I haven't seen students having sit-down demonstrations, or workers blockading government buildings, or people refusing to pay their taxes in large numbers, or, I haven't seen any of this. I haven't seen any physical demonstration by Londoners or Canadians that really indicate they're completely and utterly fed up and they refuse to tolerate this situation any longer. I had a good time here, but it's just time for people like me who are ambitious, who are independent-minded, who want the flexibility to be able to learn and experiment without interference from their social community. It's time for a person like me to leave and experiment and discover new worlds elsewhere, because it's not really possible any longer in Canada.
Well, as we know, Marc Emery did eventually find his way back to Canada, calling Vancouver home, a place that would become world headquarters for the seed selling operation that Emery says brought in roughly $15 million in a 10-year period before being shut down by Canadian authorities. Emery estimates almost half of that business went to customers in the U.S., which is why he is being referred to as a drug kingpin across the border. U.S. authorities are actively trying to get Emery extradited, and he fully expects they'll succeed. Even with that threat and the jail sentence of 10 years to life he could face, the Marc Emery of today is at peace.